The night was cold, and the ruins of the dead city were silent. The wind carried dust through broken streets, whispering like lost souls. A struggling human wandered alone, his stomach empty, his eyes tired, his heart almost giving up. He searched for food among old buildings, his hands shaking as he lifted metal scraps and broken wood. But there was nothing, only silence and shadows. He thought of turning back, but then something strange caught his eyes. At the center of a broken marketplace stood a tall pillar, and tied to that pillar was a figure. The human froze, his breath stuck in his chest. It was not human. It was something different, something alien. Long silver hair fell over her face, her skin glowing faintly under the broken moonlight. Around her neck hung a wooden sign with cruel words burned into it. "Take as you please." The man's blood ran cold. Why would someone leave her here like this? Why would they use such words as if she was not alive, not a person, but an object? He looked around carefully. No one else was there. The marketplace was empty, but the air felt heavy, as if eyes were watching from the dark. He stepped closer, each footstep echoing in the ruins. His heart told him to run, but his curiosity pulled him forward. The alien girl did not move, her head bowed, her arms bound tight against the pillar. Her breathing was weak, slow, almost broken. The human reached out but stopped his hand midway. What if this was a trap? What if she was dangerous? What if she opened her eyes and killed him? He stepped back, but his eyes stayed locked on her. He saw scars on her wrists where the rope had cut deep. He saw bruises along her arms, marks of punishment and cruelty. She was no monster. She was suffering. Something twisted inside his chest. A feeling of anger and pity mixed together. He thought of himself, weak, hungry, lost, treated like trash by others. And now he saw her, an alien girl, treated the same way, tied and humiliated. In that moment, he felt a strange connection. The key. Wind grew louder, howling between broken walls. The man clenched his jaw, stepped closer again, and whispered, "Can you hear me?" The girl did not reply. Her head remained bowed, her body unmoving. Only the faint rise and fall of her chest showed that life still held her. His hand touched the rope, rough and hard. It was tight, cutting into her skin. He looked around again, afraid of shadows, but no one came. Slowly, he pulled out a rusty knife from his belt. His hand shook, but he pressed the blade against the rope. The sound of rope fibers snapping echoed like thunder in the empty night. One by one, the ropes fell away. Her body slumped forward, too weak to stand. The man caught her before she fell to the ground. She was light, almost weightless. Her skin was cold like stone, yet soft like water. He whispered again, "Are you alive?" Her lips trembled, but no words came out. He laid her gently against the broken wall. She breathed shallowly, her eyes still closed. The sign with cruel words still hung around her neck. The man tore it away and threw it on the ground. The wooden board hit the stone floor and cracked. He stared at the broken pieces and felt his anger burn. Who would do this? Who would treat someone alive like this? For a moment he thought of leaving her there. His own life was already hard. Carrying her would only bring danger. Maybe hunters would come, maybe soldiers, maybe worse. She was alien. She was unknown. But then as he turned to leave, he heard the faintest sound, a whisper, soft and broken. Her lips moved, her voice weak, almost a sigh. She said one word, only one. "Why?" The man froze, his body trembling. Her voice was not angry, not hateful. It was a question filled with pain, filled with confusion. Why was she punished? Why was she abandoned? Why was life so cruel? The man could not answer. He only stood there, his throat dry, his eyes burning. Slowly, he placed his hand on her shoulder and whispered back, "I don't know, but you are not nothing." The night grew colder, the silence heavier. Somewhere far away, a door slammed, a dog barked, voices rose. Someone had noticed. Someone was coming. The man's heart raced. He knew he had no choice now. He lifted the alien girl in his arms, her body limp but breathing. And with one last look at the broken pillar, he turned into the shadows. The marketplace behind him felt cursed. haunted by the cruel sign. But now, the human carried with him a secret that could change his life or destroy it completely. The wind whispered again, but this time, it sounded like a warning. The discovery was only the beginning. The night did not end easily. The man carried the alien girl through the ruins, his steps heavy, his arms shaking from her weight. The streets were empty, but he felt as if shadows followed behind him. Every broken window looked like an eye watching. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. He could not shake the thought. He had freed someone meant to stay punished. Maybe people would hunt him now, maybe even kill him for touching what was forbidden. At last, he reached an abandoned shelter, a half-fallen house with broken walls, and no roof on one side. It was not safe, but it was hidden. He laid the girl down gently on the ground, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. Her face was pale, her eyes still closed. For a moment he feared she would not wake, but then her fingers twitched. Her lips moved slightly. She whispered something he could not hear, only air passing between broken breaths. He pulled out a small piece of stale bread from his pocket, the only food he had left. He knelt beside her and placed it near her lips. "Eat," he whispered. "You need strength." But she turned her head weakly, refusing. Her eyes opened for the first time, strange, glowing, not human at all. They looked directly at him, sharp but empty, like someone who had lost everything. He felt his heart pound in his chest. Was she looking at him as a friend or an enemy? She did not speak, only stared. Her breathing was shallow, her body trembling. The man tore the bread into smaller pieces, put one close to her mouth, but again she refused. He sighed, leaned back against the wall, and closed his eyes for a moment. Maybe she thought he wanted to poison her. Maybe she thought he was like the ones who tied her to that pillar. He could not blame her. Why would she trust him? A stranger, a human, when even her own kind had punished her so cruelly. The silence grew heavy, broken only by the crackling of the wind outside. The man whispered to himself, almost too quiet to hear. "Why did I save her? I don't even know." But deep inside, he did know, because leaving her there, tied and humiliated, would have meant killing the last piece of humanity left inside him, and he could not do that. Suddenly, a faint sound reached his ears. Distant voices, carried by the wind. He froze, his eyes wide. The voices were sharp, angry, searching. "Find her. She has not gone far. The punished alien must not be free." The man's heart pounded. They were already looking. He glanced at the girl. She seemed too weak to run. His hands clenched, his mind raced. If they found her here, both of them would die. He moved quickly, pulling a broken cloth from the floor, and wrapping it around her glowing skin, hiding her brightness. Her strange eyes followed his movements, still cold, still unreadable. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "Please. If they hear us, it's over." She blinked slowly, her lips pressing together. For the first time, she obeyed. The voices outside grew closer, boots striking against stone, torches lighting the dark streets. The man held his breath, pressing, his back against the wall, praying they would not enter. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the footsteps faded. The voices moved further away. The danger had passed, for now. The man let out a shaky breath, his whole body trembling. He looked at the alien girl again. Her eyes were still on him, softer this time, no longer sharp. He realized she had stayed quiet not because of fear, but because she chose to listen to him. Something small had changed, something fragile. The first sign of trust. Night turned to dawn, a pale light touching the ruined walls. The girl sat up slowly, weak but awake. She reached out a hand, not to take the bread, but to touch the broken sign he had thrown aside. Her fingers trembled over the burned words, "Take as you please." Her eyes filled with pain, her lips forming a whisper. "Punished." The man nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Her voice was soft but heavy with sadness. She looked at him again and asked, "Why? Help?" He swallowed, unsure of his answer. Why indeed? He had no food, no strength, no future. Helping her only brought danger. But when he saw her broken body, her empty eyes, he could not walk away. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe because no one helped me either." Her eyes widened slightly, as if his words touched something inside her. She did not reply, but she did something unexpected. She reached for the bread at last, took it with shaky hands, and bit a small piece. The man felt a strange relief, as if a wall had cracked between them. She trusted him enough to eat. It was small, almost nothing, but to him it felt like a bond. He leaned back, closing his eyes, a tired smile on his face. For the first time in years, he was not completely alone. But he also knew, deep in his heart, that this bond would bring danger greater than he ever imagined. Because the voices in the night had not lied. Others would come. They would not stop until she was captured again. And now, because he had saved her, they would hunt him. Too, the first trust had been formed, but with it came the first shadow of war. The morning sun rose weakly over the ruined city, its light pale and thin. The man and the alien girl sat in the broken shelter, silent, their breaths shallow. The girl's strange eyes blinked slowly, still tired but sharper now. The man chewed the last piece of dry bread while she watched quietly. Neither spoke, but both understood something. The silence between them was no longer empty. Then came the sound. Footsteps, not one, but many, echoing through the streets like drums of war. The man's body stiffened, his heart pounding. He moved to the edge of the broken wall and peeked out. His blood froze. Dozens of figures moved between the ruins, torches in their hands, weapons. On their backs, their voices rang clear in the morning air. "She was freed last night. The cursed alien is loose. Find her. She must be punished again. She must not escape." The man pulled back quickly, his breath sharp. They were close. Too close. He turned to the girl, whispering harshly, "We have to go." Her expression did not change, but her body tensed. She stood slowly, her legs weak, but her spirit stubborn. He grabbed her arm to steady her, and she did not pull away. For the first time, she let him guide her. They slipped out through the back of the shelter, moving carefully across cracked stones and fallen beams. Every sound felt dangerous. Every shadow felt alive. The voices of the hunters echoed, bouncing off broken walls. "They cannot be far. Search the alleys. Burn them out if you must." Man's chest tightened, fear mixing with anger. Why did they hate her so much? Why was her life worth nothing to them? He glanced at her. She walked with her head low, her silver hair covering part of her face. Even in weakness, there was something proud about her, something unbroken. He could not explain it, but he felt it. She was more than what they called her, more than cursed, more than punished. The sound of boots grew louder, closer. The man cursed under his breath, pulling her into a narrow passage between two fallen walls. They crouched low, holding their breaths. Through a crack, he saw shadows pass, hunters with sharp eyes scanning the ruins. One of them laughed cruelly. "The human who freed her will regret it. They both will." The girl's eyes flicked to him then, piercing, sharp. She had understood those words. She knew he had risked his life. And for the first time, her fingers reached for his arm, gripping tight. Not in fear, but in a silent promise. The hunters passed, their footsteps fading for a moment. The man let out a shaky breath, but before relief could come, another voice rang out, close, too close. "Here. Tracks. 2 sets, one heavier, one weak." They went. "This way." The man's heart dropped. They had been found. He pulled the girl to her feet and they ran. Their steps echoed on stone, broken glass crunching underfoot. The hunters shouted behind them. The chase had begun. Arrows whistled through the air, striking the walls, sparks flying. The girl stumbled, nearly falling, but the man caught her arm, pulling her forward. "Don't stop," he cried. "Don't stop now." They turned down a broken alley, but the hunters followed fast. The girl's breath came ragged, her body weak. Still, her eyes burned with a strange light. The man saw it. Anger, pain, defiance, He knew then that she was not weak inside. She had been punished not for crime but for choice, for resisting something greater. He whispered as they ran, "Why are they after you? What did you do?" Her answer came between gasps of breath, broken but clear. "I refused. Obey." The words struck him like a hammer. Refused to obey. She had chosen freedom. And for that, they had tied her to a pillar like an object. The man clenched his jaw, fury rising in his chest. He did not know her story, not fully, but he understood enough. She had been punished for courage, and now he was running for that same courage too. They turned another corner and stopped. The path ahead was blocked. A broken wall stood tall before them, too high to climb. Behind them, footsteps thundered closer, voices shouting, "Trap them, don't let them escape." The man's breath came fast, his body shaking. He looked around desperately, but there was nowhere left to go. The girl pressed against the wall beside him, her chest rising and falling quickly. Her glowing eyes met his, sharp but filled with something new. Not coldness, not emptiness, but fire. A fire that had not died even through punishment. The hunters turned the corner, their torches lighting. The alley, their cruel smiles glowed in the flames. "There they are," one shouted, "caught like rats." The man stepped in front of the girl, his fists clenched, though he had no weapon strong enough to fight. His whole body trembled, fear trying to crush him, but the grip on his arm tightened. The alien girl stood taller now, her eyes glowing brighter in the dark. She whispered one word, soft but powerful. "Together." The man felt something change. Inside him, fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him. He stood firm back against the wall facing the hunters. If this was the end, then they would face it side by side. The torches closed in, shadows dancing on the broken walls. The chase had ended, but the real fight was just beginning. The alley burned with torchlight, hunters closing in, their voices sharp like knives. The man stood in front of the alien girl, his fists clenched though he had nothing but courage. She stood behind him, her glowing eyes fixed on the hunters, her breath heavy, but her spirit alive. For a moment, the silence before the storm seemed endless. Then one hunter stepped forward. His smile cruel. "Foolish human," he said. "You freed what should stay punished. Now you will both suffer." The man's chest rose and fell with anger, his voice shaking as he shouted, "She is not your toy. She is not your object." The hunters laughed, their cruel voices filling the alley. "Not our toy? Then what is she? Look at her sign. Look at her shame. She was given to all. She belongs to none." The girl's eyes burned with pain, her lips trembling. But she did not bow her head this time. She stood straighter, defiant even in chains. Of memory. The man prepared to fight though he knew he could not win. He raised his arms ready to defend her with his life. The hunters charged, weapons flashing in the firelight. The clash was fast, brutal, one against many. The man swung wildly, his fists striking faces, his knife cutting skin, but he was only human. Weak, hungry, alone. A club slammed against his back. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to his knees, blood on his lips. The girl cried out, a sound sharp with fear. Her hands glowed faintly. But before she could act, strong arms seized her, pulling her away. The man tried to rise, but boots struck his ribs, holding him down. He gasped, his vision blurring. Through the haze, he saw her dragged forward, her silver hair falling over her face. The hunters tied, her once again ropes cutting into her skin. One of them laughed and threw a second rope across the man's arms, binding him too. Side by side, they were tied together, helpless, their backs against the same pillar of broken stone. A new sign was hung above them. The same cruel words burned deep. "Take as you please." The man's heart broke. He had fought with all he had. Yet still, he had failed. The girl turned her face toward him, her glowing eyes wet with tears. Not tears of weakness, but of sorrow. Her lips moved, whispering words soft as a knife. "Why? You saved me. Only to share my punishment?" The man closed his eyes, blood dripping from his forehead. His voice cracked as he answered, Because no one deserves this. Not you, not me, not anyone. The hunters cheered, their cruel laughter echoing through the ruins. Now they will both know shame. Now they will both be broken. The firelight flickered against their grinning faces. Strangers stepped from the shadows, greedy eyes drawn by the cruel sign. The girl's body shook, her hands clenching. The man pressed closer against her, whispering, "Don't give them what they want, don't let them see you break." The first stranger stepped forward, his smile dark, his hand reaching. But before he could touch, a strange pulse of energy surged from the girl. A flash of light struck the air, throwing him back against the wall. The crowd gasped, their smiles fading into fear. The hunters stepped back, weapons raised. What is this? She should be weak, she should be broken. The girl's chest rose and fell quickly, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her voice cut the silence, sharp and strong. "You will not touch him." The man stared in shock, his heart pounding. She was protecting him even now, even as chains cut her skin. The hunters shouted, anger and fear mixing in their voices. "She defies us still. She must be punished harder." They dragged the ropes tighter, forcing her and the man closer. Together. Pain ripped through his arms and chest, but he clenched his teeth, refusing to scream. The girl's face twisted in pain too, but she did not bow her head. She looked at him with fire in her eyes, whispering words only he could hear. "You are not like them. You did not leave me, I will not leave you." But betrayal was not finished. As the crowd pressed closer, a familiar voice rose from the hunters, one the man knew, one he trusted once. It was his old friend, a scavenger like him. The man's eyes widened, his voice weak. "You? You told them?" The friend's face was cold, his words sharp. "You brought danger to us all, saving her. Do you think anyone can hide from their masters? Better you both suffer than all of us." The man's chest ached, his heart heavier than his wounds. Betrayed, sold out by the one he had trusted. The girl's eyes softened as she saw his pain. For the first time, she understood him fully. He was broken not only by the hunters, but by betrayal. Her glowing hand brushed against his bound wrist, a silent comfort. Two prisoners bound together, yet sharing something stronger than chains. The hunters laughed again, their torches burning brighter. The pillar stood high, their sign of shame clear for all to see. The man and the alien girl were tied as one, bound by cruelty, surrounded by enemies, betrayed by friends. But in their locked eyes, in their shared silence, there was something unbroken, a fire waiting to rise. The night stretched long, heavy with danger. The hunters thought they had won, but neither the human nor the alien girl had truly surrendered. Blood and betrayal had brought them here, but what would come next would test the very strength of their souls. The night was heavy, the air thick with smoke from burning torches. The man and the alien girl hung bound to the pillar side by side, their bodies aching, their wrists cut by ropes. Above their heads, the cruel sign swayed in the wind, its words burned deep, "Take as you please." The hunters laughed, their shadows long on the broken walls. They waited for strangers to come, for the crowd to gather. This was not punishment alone, it was a show, a lesson, a cruelty meant to break both flesh and spirit. The man's head throbbed with pain, his blood dried on his face. He tried to pull against the ropes, but they only cut deeper. Beside him, the alien girl breathed weakly, her chest rising and falling, yet her eyes burned brighter than the flames. She stared at the hunters with defiance, her lips trembling but unbroken. The man whispered through cracked lips, "Don't look at them. Don't give them power." She turned her glowing eyes toward him, softening for only a moment. "You suffer because of me," she said, her voice broken but clear. The man shook his head weakly. "No, I suffer because of them, not you." The crowd grew louder, footsteps gathering, faces hidden in the torchlight. Some came with cruel smiles, others with greedy eyes. One man stepped forward, his hands eager, his voice mocking. "Two for the price of one, the cursed alien and her foolish human." The hunters laughed, shoving him closer. The alien girl's breath quickened, her body shaking. But before the stranger could touch, she twisted, pressing herself against the man, shielding him with her own body. The man gasped, his heart pounding. "No, don't." But she refused to move, her glowing hair falling over him like a shield. A sudden pulse of light erupted from her skin, a wave of energy striking the stranger. He screamed as he flew back, crashing into the wall. The crowd shouted in shock, some stepping back in fear. The hunters cursed, raising their weapons. "She still resists, even punished, even broken." The girl's voice rose, stronger than before. "You will not touch him." Her words cut through the night, sharp, undeniable. The man turned his head to look at her, awe in his eyes. "You protected me." She blinked slowly, pain flashing in her face. "You freed me." "I protect you," the hunters snarled, pulling tighter on the ropes, trying to drain her strength. The man winced as pain shot through his chest, but he gritted his teeth. He whispered, his voice trembling, "They won't stop. They'll keep coming." The girl's eyes filled with sadness. "I know," she said softly. "They punished me because I chose to protect your kind." The man's breath caught, his body frozen. Her words sank deep. She had betrayed her own people to defend humans, and for that they had tied her to a pillar, cursed her, left her for all to see. Tears burned his eyes, not from pain, but from truth. "You suffered for us," he whispered, "and still they hate you." The hunters stepped closer, their torches casting fire across the broken stone. "Her powers remain, but she cannot fight long," one said. "Make them both pay." Another raised his blade, ready to strike. The man's heart raced. He pulled desperately against the ropes, ignoring the blood, ignoring the pain. But the ropes held strong. "Run," he whispered, to her, though he knew she could not. She shook her head, her glowing eyes steady. "No, not without you." Then came the sound, sharp and sudden, a whistle in the air followed by a scream. One of the hunters fell, an arrow buried in his chest. The crowd gasped, chaos erupting. From the shadows, a figure moved fast, silent, deadly. Another hunter fell, another scream. The man blinked, his vision blurry. Someone had come, someone neither hunter nor stranger. The mysterious figure cut through the chaos, blades flashing. The hunters tried to fight, but fear spread as quickly as blood. The figure reached the pillar, slashing through the ropes with one strike. The man fell forward, coughing, free at last. The girl stumbled too, her body collapsing into his arms. The stranger's voice was low, urgent. "Run while you can." The man looked at him, confusion in his eyes. "Who are you?" he asked, but the figure was already moving, holding back the hunters with fierce speed. There was no time for answers. The man lifted the alien girl again, her body weak, her breath shallow. He stumbled into the darkness, leaving behind the pillar, the crowd, the flames. Her hand clutched his shirt weakly, her voice faint. "You stayed. You still stay." The man nodded, his voice breaking. "Yes, I will stay until the end." They vanished into the ruins, the hunters' shouts echoing behind them. The night was filled with pain, with betrayal, with blood, but also with something else, something that grew in silence between them. Shared pain, shared suffering, shared defiance. The man knew the hunters would not stop. The world would not forgive. But he also knew one truth. He was no longer alone, and neither was she. The ruins stretched endless beneath the pale moon. The man staggered forward, carrying the alien girl through broken alleys and silent streets. Her body was weak, her breath shallow, but her eyes still glowed faintly. Behind them, the sound of horns echoed, hunters calling out to each other. They were being hunted like animals. The chase would not end. The man's legs shook, his chest ached, but he did not stop. Each step was pain, but each step was defiance. He whispered to her softly, "Hold on. Just hold on." Her fingers clutched his torn shirt, her lips moved. "You could leave me. Why not?" The man's voice cracked as he answered, "Because you didn't leave me when you could have." The forest loomed ahead, dark and deep. Tall trees swallowed the moonlight, their shadows twisting like ghosts. The man pushed forward, stumbling, Over roots and stones inside the forest, the night grew colder, the silence heavier. But the hunters were close, their torches glowing behind the trees. Their voices carried through the dark. "Find them, they cannot run forever, bring the cursed alien back." The man leaned against a tree, gasping for air. The girl lifted her head weakly, her glowing eyes searching his face. "You are tired, too tired," she whispered. He shook his head stubbornly. "No, I can still fight." His words were brave, but his body told another story. He had nothing left, no food, no strength, no weapon, but his will. Suddenly, a branch cracked. The man froze, his heart racing. From the shadows, hunters stepped into the clearing, their torches burning bright. They surrounded the man and the girl, their grins cruel, their weapons sharp. "There they are," one shouted. "Caught like rats again." The circle closed, the firelight reflecting in their hungry eyes. The man set the girl gently against a tree. He stood before her, his body weak but his spirit unbroken. "If you want her, you'll have to take me first," he growled. The hunters laughed, their cruel voices shaking the leaves. "What can one starving human do?" they mocked. But still he stood tall, fists clenched, his shadow long in the firelight. The girl's hand reached out, trembling. "Don't," she whispered. "You will die." He looked back at her, his eyes burning with fire. "Then I die, standing, not crawling." Her glowing eyes widened, shimmering with something she had not felt in years. Hope. The hunters raised their weapons, ready to strike. The man spread his arms, ready to meet them, but before the first blow could fall, the girl's body glowed brighter. A wave of light surged from her chest, shaking the ground. The hunters stumbled back, shielding their eyes. She rose slowly, weak but defiant, standing beside the man. Her voice rang clear through the night. "You will not take him, not while I still breathe." The hunters roared, in anger charging forward. The fight began, fire against light, steel against courage. The man swung a broken branch, striking one down. The girl lifted her glowing hands, energy bursting outward. Each blast threw hunters into the trees, their screams cutting through the forest. But for everyone that fell, 2 more came. The circle tightened, their torches burning hotter. The man's breath came ragged, his arms heavy. Still, he fought, refusing to fall. Beside him, the girl's light flickered, her strength fading. She swayed, her knees trembling, but her eyes never left his. He shouted through the chaos, "Why do you fight for me? You owe me nothing." Her answer came through her heavy breath. "Because you did not leave, because you saw me as more than chains." Her words filled him with new strength. He roared, swinging again, knocking another hunter to the ground. But then, a sound shook the night. A deep hum, metallic and sharp. The trees lit up with red light. Above the forest, a massive alien warship descended, its shadow swallowing the moon. The hunters cheered, their voices echoing. "The masters are here. Now both will be judged." The ground shook as the warship landed, trees snapping under its weight. From its open doors, armored figures stepped out, their eyes cold, their weapons bright. The girl's face went pale, her lips trembling. "They came. My own people," she whispered. The man looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then we face them together." She turned her glowing eyes to him, her voice breaking. "You would stand even against them?" "Yes," he said. "Because you stood against them once and paid the price. Now it is my turn." The armored aliens surrounded them, their leader stepping forward. His voice was sharp, filled with fury. "You defied us. You chose the weak. You chose a human over your blood." The girl's body trembled, but her voice did not break. "I chose what was right." The leader raised his weapon, his shadow falling over both of them. "Then you will die with him." The man stood taller, his back against the girl. Her glowing hand slipped into his, their fingers locking. The hunters and soldiers closed in, the warship humming above. The forest shook, the fire burned, the night roared. The last stand had begun, and neither would face it alone. The forest burned with fire and light. The warship loomed above, its shadow swallowing the trees, its engines roaring like thunder. Hunters cheered as armored aliens surrounded the man and the girl, weapons glowing with deadly power. The man stood tall though his body was broken, his fists clenched though he had nothing to fight with. Beside him, the alien girl glowed faintly, her hand locked with his, her strength almost gone. The leader of the armored alien stepped forward, his voice sharp like steel. "You betrayed your own blood, you chose a human over your kind, for that you will be erased." The girl's body shook, but her eyes burned with defiance. "I chose mercy." "I chose life! I chose what was right!" The hunters shouted angrily, their torches waving in the night. The leader raised his weapon toward her heart, his words cold. "Then you will die with him, punished until nothing remains." The man stepped in front of her, his arms wide, his voice rough. "Then kill me first, but you will never take her again." The crowd laughed, cruel voices echoing through the flames. "What is one starving human against the power of the masters?" They mocked, but the girl's glowing eyes filled with something new, something fierce. Hope. She pressed her forehead against his back, whispering softly, "You would give your life for me." His voice cracked as he answered, "Yes, because you gave yours for us and no one saw it, but I see it. I will not let them erase you." Her tears fell, hot against his torn shirt. For the first time in her long suffering, she felt seen. The leader grew impatient, raising his weapon higher. "Enough. Human courage means nothing. Alien rebellion means nothing. Both of you are nothing." He fired, a blast of light tearing through the air. But at the last moment, the man moved, shielding the girl with his body. The energy struck him, burning his chest, throwing him to the ground. He gasped, blood on, his lips, his body trembling in pain. The girl screamed, her voice sharp with anguish. Her hand shook as she lifted him, her glowing hair falling over his broken face. "No, you cannot leave me, not now." The hunters laughed again. "See how the hero dies for nothing." They sneered. But the girl's sorrow became fire. Her pain became rage. Her body glowed brighter than ever before, the light pouring from her, skin like a rising sun. The armored aliens stepped back in fear, their leader shouting, "Hold her, stop her before—" But it was too late. Her power erupted, waves of energy tearing through the clearing. Hunters were thrown into the trees. Weapons shattered, torches extinguished. The warship shook under the force, its engines whining as sparks exploded across its surface. The leader raised his weapon again, but the girl's voice cut through the night. "No more chains, no more punishment, no more." Her light struck him, blasting him backward, his armor cracking, his voice lost in the roar. The forest glowed, like dawn though the night still held. The girl's power spread wide, burning away fear, burning away cruelty. But as the light raged, her body trembled. Her strength was fading, her life burning out with each wave. She looked down at the man, in her arms, his breath shallow, his eyes weak but alive. His lips moved, whispering faintly, "Don't. Give up, you're not nothing, you never were." Her tears fell again, glowing like drops of fire. She pressed her hand to his chest, her power flowing into him. The wound on his chest glowed, slowly closing, his breath growing stronger. He opened, his eyes wider, staring at her in shock. "You healed me." Her voice was soft, breaking. "I gave you my strength because you gave me your hope." The warship groaned, fire spreading across its surface. The hunters scattered, their courage gone, their cruelty broken. The leader crawled through the dirt, shouting in fury, "This is not the end. She will never be free. She belongs to us." The girl rose to her feet, her glowing body standing tall. Her voice rang like thunder. "No, I belong to no one. Not to you, not to chains, not to pain." The warship exploded, flames rising into the sky. The forest shook as the sound echoed for miles. The hunters fled, their cries fading into the distance. Only silence remained. Broken trees, fallen fire, and two figures standing hand in hand. The man and the alien girl, alone but free. He looked at her, his eyes wet, his voice trembling. "You were never something to take, never something to use." He reached for her glowing hand, gripping it tightly. You are someone to keep. Her lips trembled, a small smile breaking through her tears. And you are someone I chose. The night grew calm, the flames dying slowly. The forest no longer echoed with laughter or cruelty. Only the sound of the wind remained, gentle, free. Together they walked away, their shadows stretching long. Two broken, souls bound not by chains but by choice, and in that choice they found redemption.